Here we go, everybody. Welcome back to another Tuesday night college football playoff live stream. Tell you what, today is a fantastic day to be a football fan. We have everything. We've got everything, right? We've got crazy coaching changes, massive news breaking today across the country for multiple different programs. Over the last few days, we've seen some massive changes. Jonathan Smith from Oregon State to Michigan State. We just saw Fran the man, get hired from Georgia, defensive backs coach, becoming the head coach at Syracuse. So, Jerry, congratulations on landing the new hire. Mike Elko from Duke to A&M. Bobby Petrino making his return to Arkansas. So, not only are we seeing fantastic offseason moves already for some of these programs, but tonight we have the penultimate, the second to last set of college football playoff rankings. We have tonight, and then we have Selection Sunday, and that's it. Then we will know who's playing for the national championship, who's going to have their shot to win a national title, what the New Year's Six bowl matchups are going to be. And, of course, we're going to have you covered every step of the way. Before we can even get to that point, we've got to make it through tonight, and we've got to make it through Conference Championship Weekend, which kicks off on Friday with maybe the best conference championship game of the year in Oregon and Washington, the rematch of a fantastic showdown back in October. So we're thrilled to have you guys all here with us tonight. We are, again, just minutes away, probably, I'd say about 10 or so minutes away from seeing the next set of rankings. Of course, you're going to get our live reaction to what the committee puts out. Last week, it was kind of atrocious, especially the bottom parts of the rankings, seeing teams like Tennessee remaining ranked, seeing some, I think, disrespect to a handful of other programs in there as well. So hopefully the committee gets things right. I think one of the biggest storylines to watch out for tonight is obviously where two teams reside. Where does the committee rank Ohio State following their loss to Michigan? Do they keep the Buckeyes within striking distance to where Ohio State could slip in if they get a decent amount of help this weekend? And also, what about Florida State? Is there a chance that the committee could actually put a one-loss Oregon team ahead of Florida State right now, who, as we know, is still undefeated despite losing Jordan Travis? So that's something I'm want to watch out for. But again, that to me would be interesting to see if the committee does that. But it's not the end of the world because Washington or Oregon's going to lose. Florida State, if you win, you're in. We have a lot of teams that are in that scenario this weekend, right? You win and you're in. You know, Georgia beats Alabama, they're in. Michigan beats Iowa, they're in. The winner of the Pac-12 championship is in. Florida State beats Louisville, they're in. And that is the easiest way for the committee to kind of get off scot-free with no controversy on Sunday. Those four teams win out, we're good to go. But things get interesting if Alabama beats Georgia. Things get interesting if Louisville upsets Florida State. Things get interesting if somehow maybe Oklahoma State takes down Texas. Texas needing a little bit of help to get into that Final Four. But I would not rule that out. Remember, we just put out a video today, or yesterday, with three potential chaotic college football playoff scenarios that, while they may be chaotic, are very, very possible. So something to kind of watch out for as we go through these next couple of days. But again, we want to welcome everybody to the stream tonight. We will be taking your calls shortly after the show is over. Once we see the set of rankings, we'll kind of give you our thoughts, and we'll open the line to get your thoughts as well. But in the meantime, I want to give some major shout-outs to the guys that are here. John Paul Bacon, our man Robert, Sir Dobby, Travis B., Chad Cuba, Brady Glassman. Good to see you, Brady. Let's see who else is on here. My man Scotty B., the Baylor King, Cash Money, SpongeBob, add that in there, and Walter McKay. All of you guys that are here, we appreciate you. All that are watching now, all that are watching later, all that are watching, here in a few minutes. We're thrilled to have you. Make sure to hit that like button, like this live stream, promote. That is how we get more exposure. And also, in addition to liking, in addition to calling in, in addition to your comments, make sure to check out everything down in the description below. You see it ticking across the bottom. We're going to pull it up right here. Our holiday special is live on the gridironexpert.com. We have some of the best betting picks in the country for you. And that holiday special is going to get you every single conference championship spread pick, every single bowl game spread pick, every single one, and every NFL playoff game spread pick as well. We just need 4 more holiday special sales to reach our goal for the year, just 4 more. So we are very, very close to hitting that goal We would love for you guys to join in on that and start winning big with us because we're hitting over 61% of our bets this year. We've hit over 60% of our postseason bets each of the last 5 years. It's been a very, very great season for us here at the Gridiron Expert. We want you guys to join in on that, and that holiday special is our treat to you. One of the lowest prices in the country for some of the best guaranteed winning picks in the country as well. And I already see a lot of people in the chat right now talking about some betting picks. A handful of you actually disgusted, shocked that Washington is a 9.5-point underdog to Oregon in the Pac-12 championship, which I will say I was surprised by that number as well, but I can understand why. I think Oregon's just blowing people out of the water left and right, and Washington, ever since beating Oregon, has struggled. Are they undefeated? Yes. But keep in mind, guys, Washington has won 6 of their 12 games this year by 1 possession. Barely beat Washington State, barely beat Oregon State, barely beat Arizona, barely beat Oregon. They're not looking dominant. They're winning, but they're not dominant. To me, Washington is this year's TCU, if you want my honest opinion. Washington is this year's TCU. They are a team that is winning. They are fun to watch. They're getting by the skin of their teeth. Can they get to the national championship? The problem for Washington is, unlike TCU, if the Huskies lose their conference championship, they're out, more than likely. Oregon would take their spot, and then Washington would need Florida State to lose. They would need Georgia to win. They would need Texas to lose. And then it would come down to a battle between Washington and Ohio State for that last spot. What the committee does there remains to be seen. So very, very interesting to see how that all pans out. But we'll talk more about that as the night goes on. Again, we're minutes away from the next set of rankings. We're excited to see what the committee decides to do and what we see from the results from a hectic rivalry weekend where not too many top teams lost outside of obviously Ohio State to Michigan, but a handful of top teams did not look good. Georgia did not look good against Georgia Tech. Florida State did not look good against Florida. Alabama did not look good, and they need a miracle win on 4th and goal from the 31-yard line to beat Auburn. Do I expect those teams to drop tonight? No, I don't. But do I think that the committee is definitely going to be taking a lot of that into consideration, especially if it becomes a debate on who gets maybe the last spot or one of the last 2 spots? Yeah, I do. We'll jump more into that in a second. We've got the rankings on right now, and here we go. Kansas State staying in the top 25 somehow, some way, after losing at home in the snow as a favorite, 10-point favorite to Iowa State. They remain. The gap, what I take from this first set of 5 here, still strongly disagree with Tennessee being ranked. That's ridiculous. But the gap between Tulane and Liberty is small. And the key thing here is SMU's not ranked. SMU is not ranked. SMU plays Tulane in the American Championship game. So what that tells me is that if Tulane loses and Liberty beats New Mexico State to win the Conference USA, Liberty will go to a New Year's Six bowl game. Something to watch out for there. Oregon State down a few spots, won the loss to Oregon. Still think they should have dropped a lot more. That was very uncompetitive. NC State at 19, Iowa, Notre Dame in there. Iowa still not in the top 15. I find that to be interesting. Right on the fringe at number 16. I'm not really sure about that. But again, I'm still focused, and we'll come back. We'll rehash all of this. We will. But I'm still focusing on that bottom 5 there with the New Year's Six bowl race among group of 5 teams. Louisville down 4. Look, I don't know what we're doing here, man. I don't know what we're doing here. I don't think we're properly punishing these teams for losing games they're supposed to win. Louisville, a full touchdown favorite at home against a mediocre, I should say, Kentucky team, and they only dropped 4 spots. That actually benefits Florida State because they're going to be able to say, if we beat Louisville, that's still a top 15 win on our resumes. That's really beneficial there. Ole Miss, Oklahoma, LSU, all still out the outside. Arizona not even moving a spot. Arizona needs to be above Louisville. And you can make the case Arizona could be above LSU as well, but I think they at least need to be 14th. How can you not have Arizona ahead of Louisville? I know a worse record, but the Wildcats are one of the hottest teams in the country right now. No doubt about it. 15th to me is a little bit low. We had Arizona at 12th in our rankings. Penn State at 10. Fine by me. Actually continues to benefit both Michigan and Ohio State, and more so Ohio State here because look, Michigan's not losing. Michigan's not losing to Iowa, right? It's just not going to happen. So something to kind of watch out for there. That if Ohio State does get back in the mix if there's chaos, kind of like we saw last year where they slipped in as that 4 seed, having Penn State in the top 10 still strongly benefits them. Missouri at 9. I don't think we're going to see many shakeups over these next handful of rankings. Credit to Missouri. Credit to my man Eddie. Congratulations on a heck of a year. The Tigers are just playing lights out football. This was the breakout year that many expected them to have. This was the breakout year that Eli Drinkwitz needed. And 10-2 going to a New Year's Six bowl game is awesome. It's exciting. And look, I think now we're kind of getting into the same kind of deal here. Alabama's at 8. We expect Texas to be at 7, unless Ohio State drops to 7th and Texas goes up to 6. That could be a possibility. No, it's not. Wow. So Ohio State remains in the top 6 ahead of Texas and Alabama. The question that you have now is, obviously Texas and Alabama have a conference championship to play. So you would imagine that if Texas and Alabama win those games, that they would jump Ohio State when it came to getting to the top 4. You would imagine that would be the case. But I would be concerned. Here's the thing. Ohio State at the least is going to be, or at the worst is going to be 6th. You could make an argument for them to be 5th. If Alabama beats Georgia, are we going to move the Crimson Tide up 4 spots and ahead of Ohio State? Are we going to put Alabama in ahead of Georgia even, who had won 29 straight games, the last 2 national championships, and would require them to drop 4 spots out of the top 4 down to number 5? That's interesting to me that Ohio State is still that high. And I feel like the window's still open for them. Obviously, you can put them there now. And if Bama does beat Georgia, that is a much better win than maybe anything that Ohio State has on their resume. Their best 2 wins are Notre Dame and Penn State. And Alabama win over a number 1 team in the country, to me, would be enough, especially having that conference championship tag to their name. But that is a concern. That is a concern. And if I'm Alabama right now, I'm looking at this and I'm a little uneasy, thinking, even if we finish 12-1 with an SEC championship, we might not still get into the playoff. It's no guarantee. Here we go into the top 6. Will Ohio State be 6th or 5th? They're 6th. Okay. Dropping 4 spots. That makes sense. I don't see a world where you could have Ohio State ahead of Oregon, who's playing some of the best football in the entire country. Now the question remains, is it going to be Oregon or Florida State in at number 5? As of late, you would expect it to be Oregon. Don't see how you can, even though Oregon's playing better football right now and it's fully healthy right now, how you can justify putting the Ducks ahead of Florida State despite Florida State's injury issues and despite them playing better. Again, it'll work itself out if Oregon can go on to win the Pac-12 championship over Washington. So I imagine that's where the Ducks are going to be, is at number 5. There you go. Which means the top 4 probably remains the same. I would imagine it with the exception of Ohio State. I imagine Georgia 1, Michigan 2, Washington 3, Florida State at 4. That's what we're looking at here, more than likely. Georgia, Michigan, Washington, Florida State. I don't think that the committee would put Michigan above Georgia. We did. We put Michigan ahead of Georgia. I think their win over Ohio State obviously trumps anything that Georgia just did against Georgia Tech, only beating them by 8. And don't give me the, but they sat out Brock Bowers and they sat out these guys. Don't care. Doesn't matter. To me, Michigan's win over Ohio State was significantly better than almost anything that Georgia's got on their resume. Their best win comes against Missouri. I know they beat Missouri, Ole Miss, and Tennessee. Tennessee should not be ranked. They should not. Michigan's got wins on the road at Penn State in the top 10, and then that win over Ohio State, who's in the top 6. So 2 top 10 victories on their resume as compared to just 1 from Georgia, even though Ole Miss is around the outside looking in. Still expect, again, Florida State in at 4 as expected. Back up a spot. They had boot them out to number 5, so they're back in. Washington, probably Michigan and Georgia. For all of you that are here, we thank you for being here. We're going to continue the good times tonight. We're going to take a lot of your calls, a lot of your comments in the chat, breaking down what we just witnessed tonight with these next set of playoff rankings. For those of you that are here, make sure to like the stream. Subscribe if you have not already. We've got conference championship predictions beginning tomorrow. We're going to be predicting every single Power 5 championship game. We've already predicted all the Group of 5 ones. So tomorrow, we've got Alabama, Georgia, and Oregon, Washington. Thursday, Michigan at 2, Georgia at 1. There you go. Everybody moving up a handful of spots there, thanks to the loss of Ohio State. But Wednesday, we're going to have the ACC Championship prediction. Thursday, we're going to have ACC Championship and Big Ten. Friday's Big 12. We're going to have playoff scenarios and a who's in video on Sunday morning. We got you covered the rest of the year. Then, of course, we're going to be predicting every single college football bowl game. Every single college football bowl game this postseason. Do not want to miss out on that. If you want to win your Bowl Mania group, you need to come here, subscribe to our channel, and that's going to give you the spread pick for every single conference championship game. Technical difficulties there. Yeah, had some technical difficulties. Our bad. Sign up for that holiday special that's going to give you every single conference championship spread pick, every single college football bowl game spread pick, and every single NFL playoff game spread pick as well. We've got you covered on that holiday special. Go sign up. The link for it down in the description below. We want you on our team, and we want you to take advantage of some of the best picks in the entire country. So do not miss out on that. All right, here's what we're going to do. We're going to give you a little bit of a recap here, and then we're going to revisit the phone lines. Looking back at the top 25 tonight, guys, I think the top 10 hasn't really changed that much, right? If you go back and look at about the first set of rankings to now, we have not seen much variation in the top 10. Obviously, Louisville drops out, only down to 14, though. Which actually, again, benefits Florida State and their resume to say they still got a top 15 win if they can beat them in the ACC championship game. If Florida State loses, they're out, right? Florida State's not getting in with a loss to Louisville. It's just not happening. And I would honestly say that game and the Alabama-Georgia SEC championship are the most likely championships to result in an upset. A significant upset, because even though Oregon is nearly a 10-point favorite against Washington, I'm not going to be shocked in the slightest if Washington wins that game. But if you're looking for a pretty big upset, it's Alabama over Georgia and Louisville over Florida State. That could happen and ultimately shake up these rankings. But starting at the bottom and working back up, I am very intrigued with Tulane and Liberty. 22 Tulane, 24 Liberty. Tulane's got a tough test at home, guys, against SMU. And if I'm the committee, there's no way you can take an unranked SMU team, even if they beat Tulane, and take them from the unranked and jump them over an undefeated Liberty. So the beauty of this is Tulane's going to know what they need to do, right? Like, if Liberty loses on Friday afternoon or Friday night to New Mexico State, they're out of the equation. Tulane knows if they win, they're in. And Tulane's in, period, right? If Tulane wins over SMU, they're going. Liberty's not going to jump them. It's not going to happen. So if you're Tulane, just win, and you're going to your second straight New Year's Six bowl game. If you lose to SMU, and Liberty beats New Mexico State, Liberty's going to a New Year's Six bowl in their first year under Jamie Chadwell. How about that? That'd be unbelievable. Undefeated year in the Conference USA, first year in the conference, and they go to a New Year's Six game. That'd be awesome. But what happens if SMU beats Tulane, and what happens if Liberty loses to New Mexico State? There's no other Group of 5 team ranked, and I imagine that the committee would just have to throw in SMU at like 24th or 25th to say, hey, they are the now highest ranked Group of 5 champion. I imagine that's what they'd have to do. Although, bear with me here, I believe you could make the argument for Toledo, as Brady said. They would finish 12-1, champions of the MAC if they can get it. You could make a case for Troy, who, remember, was in the top 25 heading into bowl season last year and ultimately won their bowl game to finish 12-2, finished their season ranked. If they can win the Sun Belt, they can make an argument. So Toledo has a case. Troy has a case. SMU has a case if they beat Tulane. New Mexico State, even at a 3-loss team, has a case. One of their losses would have been to Liberty, who they then would get revenge over. They have a 21-point win on the road against Auburn, who nearly took down Alabama. They would have an opportunity to make an argument, although I don't see them putting them in over, again, a 1-loss Toledo, a 2-loss Troy, and a 2-loss SMU, who would have just gone on the road to beat Tulane. Don't see it happening. But the New Year's Six bowl race among Group of 5 teams is really, really interesting. Going forward. Going to that next section there, again, I'm disgusted with Tennessee still being at 21st. I'm disgusted with them being ranked, period. It makes no sense. All it does is stat pads. It helps whoever the SEC champion is going to be. Whether it's Alabama or Georgia, both of which got double-digit victories over Tennessee, it helps them. The Volunteers are not a top 25 team. They are far from it. It is a disgrace to see them at 21st. And quite frankly, I'm not thrilled with Kansas State being ranked either. Kansas State was on the fringe for us. We dropped Kansas State out of our top 25. I was a fan of them. I'm a fan of what they're doing. But to lose to Iowa State and allow that many big plays in the snow, unacceptable. 10-point favorite at home when you lose. That's unacceptable. So I'm not really thrilled with Kansas State being in there. I actually would much rather have seen SMU maybe join the ranks. Maybe Toledo join those ranks at 25, not the Wildcats. I still am confused, again, with Arizona being behind Louisville. I strongly disagree with that. The Wildcats dominated Arizona State. Was unbelievable performance. They have like 4 ranked wins in their last couple of weeks. One of the hottest teams in the country. Did not lose at home as a 7-point favorite to their in-state rival. It didn't happen. They beat Arizona State on the road. Not that the Sun Devils are any good. So I think that should be flipped a little bit. A minuscule change, I know, but I think we need to treat everything and every ranking here very seriously. Also not a fan with Louisville and Oregon State only dropping a handful of spots. You get annihilated. You get annihilated. Oregon State does on the road against Oregon. You lose back-to-back games. A narrow loss to Washington, okay, but then you don't even put up a fight against Oregon, who's phenomenal. We said that. We said in our video, we said, look, Oregon State doesn't stand a chance against Oregon, and y'all attacked us for that. Look what happened. They dominated. I don't see how you can keep them in your top 20. I think, honestly, Oregon State and Tennessee both should be out of the rankings. And if you're going to keep one of them in, it should be Oregon State very, very low. But so it goes. LSU, Oklahoma, Ole Miss, 13 through 11. That's fine. And then the top 10, as we mentioned, I'm not too upset about. You really can't change much there. But again, as many are already kind of addressing on Twitter right now, note, as Brett McMurphy actually is tweeting, number 7 Texas and number 8 Alabama are in a bad spot. No team ranked lower than 6 with 1 week left to play has ever made the college football playoff. So at this spot of the season, at this spot of the rankings, no team ranked lower than 6 has ever made the top 4. They haven't done it. Well, Texas is 7th, Alabama's 8th. And that is a concern. And again, I'm Alabama. I'm concerned because if you beat Georgia, I think Alabama should be in if they beat Georgia. I do. I really do. But will they? Will the committee really drop Georgia 4 spots? I don't see how you could rank Georgia ahead of Alabama even when they win head-to-head. I don't see how you could do it, but I wouldn't be shocked. Committee's pretty corrupt that way. Michigan's going to be in. Your Pac-12 chance is going to be in. If Louisville beats Florida State, you've got now number 6 Ohio State, number 7 Texas, number 8 Alabama. And if I'm Texas, I'm scared too. Because what if Louisville beats Florida State? What if Louisville beats Florida State? That kicks Florida State out of the equation. Let's say Oregon beats Washington. That puts Oregon in. So now you've got 1 spot left, and you've got Washington battling for that 4th spot. You've got Ohio State battling for it, and you've got Texas battling for it. Are we really, would the committee seriously put in a 11-1 Ohio State that didn't even play for their conference championship in over a 12-1 Big 12 champion Texas, who has a 10-point road win against Alabama and whose only loss was to the number 12 team in the country in Oklahoma in the final seconds? I don't see how they could do that. I would hope not, right? Ohio State being at 6, I hope is just a formality of the committee saying, look, they lost only by 6 points on the road to Michigan. We're not going to drop them from 2nd to 10th. We're going to drop them 4 spots. But when Texas wins, when Alabama wins, whatever happens, we'll obviously have one of those teams jump the Buckeyes and get to 5th, get this 4th, whatever they need to be. If we even have an argument for them, we're just putting them there as a formality. I hope that's the case. Because if Ohio State gets in without having played for their conference championship, when a 1-loss Texas or Alabama is right behind them with a conference championship win to their resume, and they don't get in, I'm going to have a major problem with that. And I think a lot of us out there would. Ohio State's a good team, don't get me wrong, but that would be very, very corrupt and very, very, very wrong. So I hope that's not the case for Alabama. I hope it's not the case for Texas and whatever comes of that. So something to watch out for. No team less than 6 has made the playoff. Maybe that's, history's going to happen. History's going to be made for a reason, right? Every year something crazy happens. Maybe that's going to be this year where 7 or 8 slides their way in. Going through the chat. We'll talk to you guys in the chat first, and then we'll open up our phone lines, kind of get your questions, your thoughts, your comments on what has transpired tonight. Very excited to hear y'all's thoughts. Very excited to get going with Conference Championship Week. Let's see here. See where we're at. Good comment so far. Wow, got a lot of stuff going on there. I don't know what's happening in the chat. I'm gonna stay out of the arguments here. Chris LeClaire, good to see you, Chris. He says Michigan should be number 1 instead of Georgia. Look, as I say in our GE Top 25 all the time, it works itself out, right? Like, I agree. I've got Michigan at number 1. I think Michigan is the best team in the country as of right now. I think they have, honestly, even better wins than Georgia, to be honest with you. I think the win over Ohio State is better than any win on Georgia's resume. I think they have a road win over a top 10 team at Penn State by 9 points. They've won their 2 biggest games of the year with the interim coach. And I know the committee is supposed to turn a blind eye to that stuff. They're not supposed to look at off-the-field stuff. They're not supposed to take into account injuries and things like that. But to win your 2 biggest games of the season without your head coach on the sideline, and as a player with all this outside noise pouring in, and you're winning these games, that's a sign of a tough team, Ryan Day. That's a sign of a tough team. Unlike your Buckeyes, I might look, if you guys sit there and preach about how tough your team is, are they really that tough? If you have to say it, are you really that tough? You're not. So I think Michigan, I agree, Chris, should be there. Brady, where's Toledo? Beats me. Maybe Toledo slips in with a win over Miami, Ohio. They get them into the low top 25 heading into bowl season, kind of similar to what they did with Troy last year, similar to what they did with UTSA last year. That was a top 25 matchup in the Cure Bowl. That was awesome to watch, but not entirely sure how that's going to pan out. So curious to see there. You know what? We're already getting a call. I hadn't even opened the phone lines yet, but it's my man Luis, so let's get him on the line. Then we'll go back to the chat, and then we'll officially open up the lines. Hey, Luis, what's going on, man? Oh, he left us. We had him on. Literally had him on. I heard his name. Lewis, call us back, man, if you're still in the chat. Good to have you here. Good to see Neo here. Lafayette is here. Good to see you, Jerry Garcia and Jerry Turner, our man DM, who's always with us. We appreciate him. Eric Walt, good to have you. College football guy, good to see you. Glad you guys on while you're working. That's what we like to hear. Provide a little entertainment for you during the workday. Guys, this is also a year where we can't help but wish, right, that we had a 12-team playoff. At least that's how I feel. I wish we had that we would kind of prevent ourselves from having all this controversy. Now we got Lewis coming on. Let's get him on here. And he hung up again. We missed him again. I don't know what happened. Lewis, we're gonna hold of you, man. I don't know what's going on with the lines. I don't know if it's on your end or my end, but we're gonna get you on here eventually. I feel it. But yes, this is a year where the 12-team playoff would be a phenomenal system, because we really do have a lot of quality teams here. The fact that Texas could miss out, the fact that Alabama could miss out, really the fact that Ohio State or Michigan or Ohio State or Washington or Oregon even could miss out is a shame, right? Because these teams are so good and I think deserve their shot. It's unfortunate we have to wait one more year. Could the 12-team playoff have happened this year? Could it happen tomorrow? Yeah, it could. It's not that hard to put together. It's not. You just do it. That's pull a Nike, right? I mean, just do it. It's not that hard. The NCAA can come out tomorrow and go, you know what? We've changed our mind. 12-team playoff. Let's go. Season ends 1 week later than it normally does. January 15th instead of January 8th. But we're not going to do that because of money, which it would bring in more money for them anyways. But that's not my problem. Michael Rose, good to have you here. Russ J, good to hear. Lewis, again, give us a call, man. Give us a call. We've missed you twice. We'd love to get you back on. I'd love to have you. Justin, go Cardinals. Doggy, I like this question from Doggy here. Let's see. Jerry, by the way, congrats on the new hire at Syracuse. We'll talk more about that here shortly. Here we go from Doggy. If Alabama wins, does the SEC get left out? That Texas match turned out to be huge. Yeah, and I think that's something that a lot of people don't fully understand, right? That Texas game played a massive role in how this playoff is going to shape out. And now we're getting Lewis again. Doggy, we're going to try to get back to you in 1 second. We will answer that question. All right, see if we can get him on here. Lewis, are you with us?
I'm here.
Hey, what's going on, man? How you doing?
Hey, what's happening, guys?
Hey, not much. We're glad we got you on the line. I know we missed you the first 2 times, so we're thrilled to have you back.
Yeah. No worries, man. Dude, before it gets going, man, I just want to give you a shout out, man. Been watching these things, the good old whiteboard days, like way early on. Couple of views where I'm like, you know what? This dude's entertaining. He keeps it real. He's a buff with everything. And I've stayed watching since. And you're freaking awesome.
Man, I appreciate that. Seriously. I mean, yeah, you've been there since the beginning, man. I remember getting all your comments and the whiteboard days. We still bring it out every now and then, but man, those were. I go back and watch those videos sometimes. Like, man, we've grown a lot in a good way too. So, but man, I appreciate all the support. We can't do it without you. Seriously.
For sure, man. I don't know if you saw on your page, man. I was going into a back and forth with Penn State and their strength of schedule. And honestly, the Big Ten overall this year to me has been extremely mediocre. Just Penn State has 2 games a year, and they play horrible in both of these games. Not even competitive. And the rest of the Big Ten is an embarrassment. So all these weeks when it was just Michigan, Ohio State so high up there, and not one time did they compare them to anyone else below them. Like even Florida State at one point had, obviously I'm a homer, so I was going to go there. Even Florida State at one point had a comparable schedule to what Michigan had up to that point before they played Penn State. And they didn't even ever try to compare either one of us at that time. And I'm like, come on. The bias is heavy sometimes with the Big Ten. I know the SEC is heavy with the bias too, but sometimes we got to admit when there's some down years, and this was a down year in the Big Ten. It really was. Penn State was so overhyped, and they just came out flat. Disappointed all the way around.
Yeah, that's kind of been the story of Penn State's life for really the whole James Franklin era. They are kind of a perennial 10-2 type of team. I mean, like ever since they beat Ohio State back in like 2016, that game that kind of put Penn State back on the map, they've done nothing. They haven't beat Ohio State since then. They've come close, but they haven't gotten it. They've beat Michigan a few times since then, but even when they do, they find a way to lose to a team that they shouldn't, like Michigan State, or a few years ago they lost to Illinois. Like they've never gotten that over that hump to get to the college football playoff. And you're right. Outside of that, the Big Ten really has been a 3-team race all year long, and we knew that entering the year with Michigan, Ohio State, Penn State. No other team was challenging for that. The Big Ten West was a mess. Lots of new coaches, kind of devoid of talent. The Big Ten East, outside of those 3 top dogs, had Michigan State, Rutgers, Maryland, teams like that really weren't going to challenge the top 3 teams for a spot in the championship game. So you're right. It is relatively weak. And the Big Ten West, especially, which is half the conference, is the worst division, I think, in all of college football. So you do, in a way, have to look at that and say, yeah, Michigan's a great team, no doubt about it. Ohio State's a great team, no doubt about it. But outside of the few games that they've played, like against each other, against Penn State, who, again, has failed, their strength of schedule within the conference is no way good. And in a way, you're right. A lot of people make that argument with the ACC, and I know you're familiar with that being a Florida State guy. My argument has always been for any team that you have no right to criticize a team's strength of schedule within conference play. It's not Florida State's fault that the ACC is garbage. It's not Michigan's fault or Ohio State's fault that the Big Ten is garbage. What you can control is your non-conference. Michigan played nobody in the non-conference. Florida State, at least, scheduled LSU and Florida. I mean, they always play Florida, but they had 2 SEC teams on their schedule to start the year and to end the year, and won both of those. I mean, that even though LSU and Florida didn't necessarily pan out the way we thought they would, those are still significantly better non-conference wins than what Michigan has on their resume.
Exactly. And honestly, man, I'm not a blind homer. I know that losing Jordan Travis is going to hurt us. the team is going to look different. No doubt about it, man. But what somebody was saying in the show was the results have to matter. And if we've gotten to this point with the schedule we've had, I know Jordan Travis is gone, but the results have to matter. Let those boys, it's a whole team. Jordan Travis is gone, true, but we're an entire team. Let them play. They've earned it. All of them together have earned it. We beat Louisville. We should be in. And you know what? If we could somehow get in the 3 and play Michigan, I like our chances. I'd rather battle Michigan and that mediocre quarterback than deal with Georgia, honestly. But give us Michigan, and I think we have a chance.
Well, I don't even know if I disagree with you there, because Michigan has choked in the semifinals each of the last 2 years. You know, they got killed by Georgia 2 years ago, choked against TCU last year. And you're right, Lewis. I think, honestly, seriously, you beat Louisville, you're in. There's no way. The committee is not supposed to punish teams for injuries. And you're right. While Jordan Travis is a massive, massive part of that team, as you mentioned, he's not the entire team. He didn't play defense. He wasn't the one catching the balls. He's not Trey Benson. So if Tate Rodemaker goes out there on Saturday and beats Louisville, and Florida State finishes as a 13-0 undefeated ACC champion with a road win at Clemson, who's in the top 25, a win against LSU at a neutral site, who's in the top 15, a win over Florida, and everybody else in their conference, most of those in pretty convincing fashion. Again, I'm with you. There's no reason they should be left out, and I don't think they'll be left out.
No, yeah, we got to take care of business. That's really what it comes down to. Now, I know, obviously, in the chat, people have a lot to say about ACC's league, and it's a down year. That's fine. Hey, call us everything you want to, but you're going to have to call us undefeated if we win this game.
I like that.
I don't want to keep you up, man. I don't want to keep you tied up for too long. Just wanted to give you a shout out, man. I appreciate your content. I think you're awesome. I'll keep on watching, man.
Hey, Lewis, I appreciate it, man. Thank you for all the support, and we'll hope to catch you next week for sure.
Yes, sir.
All right, that's our man, Lewis. I appreciate you, man. All the support goes a long way, and I love what he said. That's a quote that I think needs to be above the locker room for Florida State on Saturday night, because you can call us whatever you want, but at the end of the night, you're going to call us undefeated. That's pretty epic. And you get Lewis in the locker room, give him a pep talk before that ACC championship game. And he's exactly right. You know, the ACC is weak. The Big Ten, honestly, is weak. The strongest conference this year, surprisingly, has been the Pac-12. It hasn't even been the SEC. It's been the Pac-12. Because even though teams like USC and UCLA didn't really live up to the hype, Oregon did. Washington did. Oregon State's been very, very good. Utah was a very tough out for the majority of this year before falling off. At the beginning of the year, Colorado wasn't all that half bad. Arizona has come out of nowhere and played very competitive football. The two worst teams in the conference are probably Stanford and Arizona State, and those two teams have either won a couple games they shouldn't have or given some major scares to some teams that they shouldn't have. Keep in mind, Stanford dropped 33 points on Washington back in October, nearly won that game, only losing by 9. So I like what Lewis said. It makes some fantastic points, and I fully agree with him in the sense of, again, Florida State, they win, they're in. Again, the playoff guys come – the committee – if the committee doesn't want to be ridiculed and they want to come in and not really be heavily questioned on Sunday morning when we all sit down to watch the selection show, they need to be praying that Georgia wins, Michigan wins, Washington, it doesn't really matter what happens in Washington, Oregon. The winner of that's getting in. If Washington wins, they're probably going to stay at 3. If they lose and Oregon wins, I think Oregon probably jumps Florida State and gets in. I do think that happens. And then Florida State gets at 4. If they win against Louisville. That's what they hope. So Georgia wins, boom. Michigan wins, boom. Pac-12 champ, they're in. Florida State wins, they're in, done. And the committee can rest easy, and they don't even have to debate. The biggest thing they've got to debate is the seeding. And I think Georgia is pretty much a lock for the 1 seed, regardless of what the margin of victory is against Alabama, if they beat Alabama. Michigan's going to be locked in at 2. Then they just have to decide, do we put Washington or Oregon in at 3, and then Florida State at 4, or do we reverse them? And honestly, that doesn't become a conversation unless Oregon beats Washington. Then the committee would have to say, do we really put a 1-loss Oregon ahead of the undefeated Florida State team? And some people say, why does that matter? It matters, as Lewis said, because it matters who you play. That's the difference between playing Michigan versus playing Georgia. And while both teams are absolutely phenomenal, I know nobody wants to play Georgia. So there you go. All right, we're getting another caller. I haven't even opened up the lines again, but let's get them going. Then we'll officially open it and then address the chat as well. Let's get him on here. I think we got him. Maybe. All right, I think we got you. Nick, is that you?
Yeah, what's up, bro?
Hey, what's going on, Nick? How you doing?
I'm doing good. How you doing?
Doing good, man. Doing good. Your dogs, they're still number one, baby.
Yeah, man. And it was Saturday. And I don't know if you heard, but Curry Smart compared Jalen Miller to Lamar Jackson, and he's kind of right on that. That I don't understand that Auburn play, man. That was crazy.
I don't.
Auburn won that game by a blowout. I didn't expect that.
Yeah, I don't think any of us.
Two guys, that's freaking insane.
I don't think any of us saw that play coming. I think if you were an Alabama fan, it doesn't matter what fan you were for. The game was over. 4th and goal from the 31. Nobody was banking on Alabama converting on that. And if you're Auburn, you just got to be sick. How do you let that happen if you're Auburn? Corner of the end zone, you're playing prevent defense. As a lot of guys said, those defenders should have had their eyes towards the ball. The back should never have been turned. It's just one of those plays that's going to go down in history as one of the greatest plays of all time, no doubt about it.
Yeah. I just think we need to we just need to contain Jalen. He can't throw the intermediate passes, so I'm not worried about that. But he does have amazing deep ball, and Alabama does have a better defense than Georgia this year. I will credit on that, but I don't think they have a way better offense than us. But I think it'll be a hub game. I think it'll be a close game, but I think my dogs gonna pull it out.
Yeah, we're gonna have that prediction, our official prediction for that game coming out tomorrow, right here on the channel. So definitely stay tuned for that. I think what I'm interested to see is, Georgia has not faced a dual threat quarterback like this all year long. So I agree with you that Georgia's got the better offense. Georgia overall has got the better team. Alabama, though, they're not that far off. Georgia has not faced a quarterback like Jalen Milroe all year. He's a guy that's gotten better with each passing week. And, you could say, oh, Brady Cook was dual threat. Peyton Thorne was dual threat. This guy, whatever. But they weren't. They're not to the extent of Jalen Milroe. So they've got to find a way to contain the run. And the running defense for Georgia has actually been kind of lackluster these last couple of weeks. So they've got to find a way to contain the run and slow it down. And really, if you contain Milroe, I agree. I'm not scared of Milroe completely beating me through the air. I'm not. But you've got to make up for his ability to run.
Yeah. I want to get your thoughts on Michigan, man. I think they're just going to please mollywop Iowa. They're going to be in automatically. So if you think if they match up with Washington or Oregon, do you think that would I guess them being probably the most to me, them and Oregon, Michigan and Oregon are probably some physical teams. They match up really great on the line of scrimmage. But I didn't see Washington, man. If they mess with Washington, I think the Michigan just wins it. All right, Washington needs really dimensional. They don't run the football that well, and their defense is really not that good.
So if you're saying if you're Georgia, you'd rather match up against Washington because you believe they're more one-dimensional?
No, Michigan. Yeah, Michigan.
Michigan matching up with Washington. Yeah. No, you're. Look, I'm going to be honest with you. I'm worried. If I'm Washington, I'm significantly worried. I mean, this Georgia team this Oregon team is really, really good. They got lucky beating them in Seattle back in October. And Washington, like I said, it's kind of been this year's TCU. Half of their games have been decided by one possession. They've won every single one of them. But now they're facing a very, very good Oregon team. And I would be lying if I said I wasn't concerned about that for Washington. But if they beat Oregon, yes, they're going to have to win all their games through the air. We know that. You got to win the game through Michael Penix. And that's actually a blessing for any team they're going up against. Because while that offense is really, really good and it's going to be very tough to stop, they are one-dimensional. You don't have to account for the ground game. You don't have to account for Dylan Johnson or anybody on Washington's roster beating you on the ground. So, not that's an air raid offense entirely, but, you rush 3, you drop 8, and you try to slow down the passing attack like Oregon State did, like Washington State did. Those teams were good, But facing a better team like a Michigan, a Georgia, whoever like that, those teams will make sure Washington pays for it. So, no, I fully agree with you on that.
You think there's pressure on Michigan to win a playoff game this year, man?
I mean, if they're going to do it, this is the year. They've got to do it this year. They've got a complete team. They're deep. They're talented. I think they're the most probably complete and efficient team in the country. So if this is the year, this has to be the year they get over the hump and get to that national championship. And they've got they'll get a favorable draw possibly. Could be Washington, could be Florida State, who knows? But they're playing lights out football, man. So if Michigan finally wants to get over the hump and kind of break that curse, well, this has got to be the year to do it.
Yeah. I picked Michigan to win against Ohio State. On that final play, man, the look on Marvin Harrison's face, and when he just dropped down, you can just feel like he was just depleted. And I feel so bad for him. Like that's just demoralizing. And now you're having a lot of Ohio State fans. Well, I got friends who are Ohio State fans. They said Kyle McCord is not the guy. Ryan Day is too conservative, doesn't go for it on fourth down. Ohio State needs to go in the transfer portal and get a quarterback. And I'm like, well, I mean, this was his first year starting.
Yeah, but it's not even on Kyle McCord. This is indicative of Ryan Day, and I actually like what Russ said here. Ryan Day has won nothing. He's held up in the rankings every year by the corrupt system. And I'm not saying Ohio State's a bad team, and I'm not saying that I think the ranking system is corrupt. But I'm not saying that's why Ohio State is where they are. But this is a guy that's lost, I think, seven games in his career at Ohio State, and I think they said that he's 1-6 against top 6 teams. So the majority of those losses have come to Michigan. Half of those losses have come to Michigan. A handful of others in playoff games like to Georgia last year, to Alabama in the national championship. So Ryan Day has kind of proven, hey, it's great. It's great beating up on all the puny teams in the Big Ten West. But if you can't win the big games like Michigan and the playoff like Ohio State expects to do, you're not doing your job. So I don't put the blame on Kyle McCord. I put it on Ryan Day to not having his team prepared, to maybe talking about how tough they are and not making his team tough. This is the guy that I think is very insecure, and rightfully so. Well, I won't even say rightfully so. He's got the talent, man. There's no excuse for Ohio State to be 3 years in a row in this position.
Yeah. I mean, you have Harrison Jr. and Emeka Egbuka, 2 elite NFL wide receivers, and you still get to beat Michigan.
Yeah.
That's crazy to me. I'm sorry. And then next year, if Michigan beats them next year, he's going to get fired.
It's a possibility. It's a possibility. And I wouldn't be surprised to see a change happen in the next few weeks either.
All right, man. So I got good dog. Appreciate it, y'all.
Hey, appreciate you, Nick. Thanks, man. It's our man, Nick, right in our backyard down here in Arkansas. But yeah, he's a Georgia fan. I think that's called treason. But Nick, we appreciate you calling in, man. Let's address the chat for a second, and then we'll open up the lines back again for a little bit. But thank you, Nick. Thank you, Lewis, for both calling in. Trying to find where my other comments were here. I know Doggy. So Doggy, we're going to go through a couple of these pretty quick. If Alabama beats Georgia while the other favorites win, will it be a stain on the SEC forever and ever? The people will make it that, right? Look, I think this is the first year in a long time we've actually had a lot of parity in college football. Because you go back and look a couple years ago. I think even that wasn't last year, was it? 2 years ago, it was Georgia and Alabama, right? And Alabama won the SEC championship, but they both made the playoff. They were able to do that because there wasn't much competition and true contenders behind them. This year, there is, right? Like, you've got 2 elite Pac-12 teams. Even keep in mind, the last couple of years, the Pac-12 has taken itself out of contention. The Pac-12 championship has not been for a spot in the playoff. It's been for a spot in the Rose Bowl. Last year, had USC beat Utah, they would have been in the playoff, but Utah prevented that. So, the Pac-12 has kind of been irrelevant. The Big 12, some years, has been irrelevant to where a team has already taken itself out of playoff contention. Now it's just a spot in the Cotton Bowl or the Sugar Bowl or wherever. But now, the Pac-12 is actually elite. You've got 2 great teams in the SEC in Georgia and Bama. You've got two great teams in the Big Ten. Michigan's going to win the Big Ten, but Ohio State's not out of contention yet. The Big 12 actually has a team in Texas, the ACC. So all Power 5 conferences are doing their job. All Power 5 conferences have at least one team that are in true contention to make the playoff. And we really haven't seen that in its roughly 10-year history. That really hasn't happened. So, will it be a stain on the SEC? Maybe, but, get this, though. If Texas gets in, the SEC is going to claim that, right? Oh, they're our new member. Texas is going to be an SEC member next year, so we count that, right? Like, that's what they're going to do, inevitably. They'll take credit for something that they did while they were in the Big 12. So I'm not going to say it's a stain on them because this is the most diverse, wide open college football's been in a long, long time, but it obviously is not going to be a good look for the conference. Great question. Great question. We're going to backtrack. I want to hit on the two super chats here. Thank you both to Blue Devil Jaguar and Ty Halpern. Let's hit Ty's first, just because his is the current one. So Ty, Dan Lanning, top 5 coach in college football in just his second year. He'll be an Oregon legend and take over at Bama. Interesting. I will say he's a fantastic coach. That was a home run hire by Oregon, no doubt about it. Young coach, energetic, helped build that Georgia defense, knows how to recruit. And if he can come into Oregon and just even get them to the playoff this year, beat Washington and get them to the playoff, that's legendary considering that they haven't been to the playoff since the year it began in 2014 when they made the national championship and lost to Ohio State. So that was back in the Marcus Mariota days, which is crazy. So already, yes, going to be a legend if he does that for them. But then to leave to take over for Bama, that's going to be big. Bama's going to throw all the money in the world at their next candidate whenever Saban decides to hang it up. Question is, who's it going to be? Could it be Dan Lanning? Could it be Dabo? Do they even want Dabo? It doesn't have to be someone with a Bama connection. But I could see Lanning coming back to the South where he's been for so long and taking that. That's a very, very good theory. And I think the idea of someone like Dabo Swinney taking over at Alabama's kind of been engraved in a lot of people's minds. That's just kind of been the thought process. But that might not very well be the case. It very well could be someone like Dan Lanning. Would not be shocked to see that at all. Let's see. Blue Devil Jaguar, I want to give you some props too. Thank you so much for that super chat. Both of you guys, every single penny of that goes into our channel and goes a very long way. So I want to thank you both for that. Super chat's always on, and the holiday special is available as well. That money goes back in to the channel as well and helps us out significantly. So, but Blue Devil, no, man, you can't. Don't apologize. You're not making it about your program. You're asking a significant question. Duke has enjoyed one of the best 2-year stretches in their program history under Mike Elko. They were kind of left for dead. Cutcliffe did great with them, don't get me wrong, but Elko seemed to be the guy. But that was just a stepping stone for them, for him. Had been a perennial coordinator for the majority of his career, first major head coaching gig, and he killed it. It was only natural, I think, for him to go to Texas A&M. I think it was to be expected for him to go to Texas A&M, knowing the ties that he had with the program. Who do you think will go to Duke? I hate to break it to you, Blue Devil Jaguar. I don't think Duke's getting a big name, right? Elko, when you think about it, wasn't even that big of a name. I think the biggest favor that Elko did was, yeah, sure, got him a lot of success, but it showed other coaches it can be done consistently at Duke. I think a lot of people used to say Duke's just a basketball school. You can't win there. Well, Elko did, and it wasn't just a flash in the pan last year. He had it back at a 7-win season this year. And honestly, would have been a better season had Riley Leonard not gotten hurt. So I don't know exactly who the top candidate is going to be. I wish I had a short list of names for you. I genuinely do. But it's not going to be a big name. It's going to be an up-and-coming coordinator that could get that job. If you want names, I mean, you got guys like maybe Will Stein over at Oregon could leave. It also depends, too, on what Duke wants. Do they want a defensive-minded guy like Elko was? They want an offensive-minded guy. What do they want in a coach? What about the philosophy? What about the work ethic? Will Stein would be good. Kendall Briles over at TCU has been a name that floated around for years. Would Rhett Lashley at SMU, would Duke be a step up for him? SMU is about to be in the ACC, so he's going to be in a Power 5 conference. Would Duke really be that step up? So I don't know. There's options there, no doubt. But it's not going to be this big name guy, and it's probably not going to be a guy that's had head coaching experience in the past, which is unfortunate for Duke, but Elko didn't, and it panned out. So that is a coaching search I am looking after with great interest. I'm very excited to see how that pans out. Good question, and again, thank you so much for the super chat. All right, let's go back up here at the top and keep working down the chats here. Let's see. Purple Rain, pour down, says John Paul. Lewis says, yeah, give me that chalk and I'll be happy. I'll go in there and I will give that pregame speech like we said. Again, call us whatever you want. Call us weak, call us soft, call us whatever. But at the end of the day, you're calling us undefeated. I'm going to live by that. That's like, again, put it out there. I love it. John Paul also said he's been a lifelong Husky fan. Yeah, that's one of my, I don't know if you guys see like the Family Guy thing like that. You know what grinds my gears? What really like rubs me the wrong way, makes me angry? It's players doing that. How hard is it just to hold on to the ball through the goal line? It's not that hard. And I get you're excited. You think you've got this easy walk-in touchdown, but just tuck it. Like, get it. Hold on to it. Score. Like, why drop the ball early? Washington's done it. We've seen a handful of other cases. That obviously the infamous Utah player back in like 2014 against Oregon. That was like the first major case of seeing an example like that. But I mean, come on, Caesar, what are we doing here? Hold on to the ball all the way through. Finish the play. And that leads me into my next question or my next topic here. I'm seeing a lot of guys in the chat already talking about the news out of Arkansas today with Bobby Petrino making his return to Arkansas. And you know what? With Bobby Petrino, back when he was the head coach at Arkansas, if you go back and watch the highlights, seriously, back in like 2010, 2011, some of the best years in Razorback history, go back and watch it. His players would score a touchdown. They'd run through the end zone, right? They'd finish the play. They'd cross the goal line. And what did they do? As soon as they crossed, they grabbed the ball and they put it down on the ground. Like, not slammed it, not spiked it. They get it and put it down. And that was a mix of two things, right? That was Petrino's philosophy in saying, hey, you're crossing the goal line and you're done. That way the officials clearly see that you did cross the goal line, right? We don't even run that risk of someone thinking that you dropped it too early, you fumbled it, whatever. Just set it down. But also, it was a way for Petrino to get his team to be like, no celebration, dude. You scored. You did your job. Get up and move on, right? Like, that's what they did. It was congratulations, touchdown, now walk off because you did your job. We're pumped you scored. You should be happy you scored. You deserve to celebrate. Celebrate on the sideline. Celebrate with your teammates on the sideline, not before the play is over. So that I always admired that type of mindset from Bobby Petrino and how he handled that with his players during his time at Arkansas. Now, I mean, I never thought you guys know this, I think. I am an Arkansas fan, right? I am. And I never thought I'd see the day that Bobby Petrino would come back to Fayetteville. I didn't even know it was legal. I didn't even know it was a possibility for it to happen. And look at that. We just got a holiday special purchase. That's what we're talking about. Our man, Minvo. I don't even know he's watching right now, but thank you, Min. We appreciate you. That gets us one step closer to our goal. 3 away now. What if we hit it during the stream? How awesome would that be? But thank you, Min, very, very much for that. Happy holidays, and you will win big with that holiday special, guarantee it. But Bobby Petrino, man, I want to go back to that. I'm not going to lie to you. Y'all are part of the GE Nation here. I cried tears of joy today. I mean, I did. My heart rate got up, and I shed some tears, because for Bobby Petrino brought Arkansas the best bit of success that they've had in their history. You can make the argument that the top 2 coaches in Arkansas football history were Bobby Petrino and his short 4-year stint there, and Frank Broyles. You can make that argument. Lou Holtz came through, sure. Houston Nutt came through, sure. But that's probably the best. And so a lot of people are going to look at that and they immediately look at the negatives, right? You go, Bobby Petrino, really look at how he panned out at Louisville. Look at how his tenure ended at Arkansas. And then people are going to say he didn't even do that good at Texas A&M this last year where he was offensive coordinator. Well, what I say to that is this A&M instance, he never had full control. Jimbo Fisher didn't allow Bobby Petrino to do what he wanted to do, right? It's hard to do your job when someone is, they've got you on a leash. It's hard to do your job when everything you do is getting scrutinized under a microscope by the CEO. You're scared. You don't get full control. And Jimbo did that to him. Also, the fact that A&M lost 2 quarterbacks, right? I mean, multiple guys got hurt throughout the year. It was just not the year that Petrino or A&M envisioned. Another 7-5, 8-4 year. Not what they wanted. But this was a fantastic hire by Arkansas. It got the fan base excited, and that's ultimately what they needed. This was a fan base that was broken. This was a fan base that was done. 4-8 this year for the Razorbacks. It was an abysmal, embarrassing year for them. They've regressed each of the last 2 years. So to bring in a former head coach who Sam Pittman was actually quoted as saying, hey, for me to do my job, I need a guy that's been a head coach before. He actually said that. If that doesn't spark confidence in your head coach, I don't know what will. But keep in mind, this was the first season that Pittman didn't have that against a good head coach. Because Dan, used to be the head coach of Central Michigan, but that doesn't count. He had Barry Odom, defensive coordinator at Arkansas. He used to be the head coach at Missouri. Now he's the head coach at UNLV. Look how well that panned out for him. At UNLV, he's in the Mountain West Championship this weekend. That's pretty awesome. That's pretty dang exciting. And hey, look at that. We got another sale for our man, Johnny. Johnny, thank you, my guy. That's what we like to see. Another sale. Welcome to the team. And he actually ordered the Expert Picks combo. So, Johnny, if you're on the stream, thank you so much, man. We appreciate that. Full year-long subscription for you all the way till next November. That's what we like to see. So, thank you for your support. Again, that goes a really long way, guys. Thank you. 2 away. But, I look at Petrino in this thing. This is also a great redemption story for him, man. It really is. I love the hire. This is a guy that was broken, that I think has over the last 10 years has matured significantly. And do yourself a favor, if you haven't already. Back in 2019, I believe it was, the Little Rock Touchdown Club, which is a fantastic organization based out of Little Rock, invited Bobby Petrino to come speak to them. They do that. They bring in a bunch of high-quality guys. This is the year the Touchdown Club had Peyton Manning. They bring in TV analysts. They bring in a big group of guys. But they invited Petrino to come back to the state of Arkansas for the first time since the whole motorcycle incident. And he publicly came out and apologized to the entire crowd in the state of Arkansas. Got choked up, was crying, kind of accepting responsibility for his actions, how sorry he was that his tenure at Arkansas ended the way that it did, and got a standing ovation for it. And now, over 10 years, because this is 2023, so it'll be 12 years since Petrino's last time at Arkansas. He comes back as the offensive coordinator, getting to run the offense the way he wants to, getting to be that guidance guy, that counselor, that advisor to Sam Pittman, and a chance to redeem himself. Is Arkansas going to go to the playoff next year? No. Are they going to win a national championship at any time soon? Absolutely not. But can they make some noise maybe by Arkansas standards? Could they win 7 or 8 games, maybe a 9-win season here and there with Petrino at the helm? If they can get the right guys, absolutely they can. Absolutely they can. So you just can't help but feel for the guy. You can't help but feel Razorback fans and the resounding, I guess, pour in of support from Arkansas fans on social media has been really cool to see. It's been really cool to see. So love the hire. That's my favorite hire of the offseason so far. Maybe I'm a little bit biased, but I was thrilled to see it. And I'm anxious to see how it pans out. I'm very anxious to see how the Razorbacks fare come next September. It's going to be an exciting time. I saw like a million questions about that in the chat. So Nick said it. I think Doggy said it. I think South Tex, my man from UCLA, said it. So definitely wanted to address it for sure. Ryan, good to see you, man. Good to see you, Ryan. Great question here. So I got 2 things going on. We don't have midweek max yet. We got play-in basketball if you're an NBA guy. I'm stoked for the Oregon-Washington game this weekend. You're a Pac-12 guy, I know. So you are stoked for the Oregon-Washington game. I'm nervous if Oregon wins, they get left out. If Bama beats Georgia and the committee continues the SEC alliance. And that is a concern too, and I get that, right? Like an Oregon loss obviously puts them out of the of the discussion. I mean, it does. An Oregon loss, 2 losses, they're done. Washington's in, it's over. The SEC bias alliance deal, I do believe it's there. I genuinely do. I think that was evident when Tennessee, after getting it handed to them again. I think we blanked out there again. I guess we're having some Wi-Fi issues. Apologize for that again. But Tennessee gets it handed to them by Missouri and Georgia in back-to-back weekends, losing both by at least 28 points, right? Wasn't it like 28 points to Georgia and like 29 to Missouri? So you get destroyed and you only drop like a handful of spots. I mean, that where is that okay? In what world is that okay? So that clearly shows a little bit of SEC bias. And to me, what that does more than anything was benefiting Georgia and Alabama. That was the opportunity to still say, hey, whoever wins the SEC still has a win over a top 25 team in our eyes. Top 21 in Tennessee. They both beat Ole Miss. They're fringe top 10. That really looks better for them. Doesn't mean I agree with it, though. I actually strongly disagree with it. So on that note, Oregon loses, they're out. If you think Oregon, Ryan, I think I may be slightly misread also. If Oregon beats Washington, they're not getting left out. It's not happening. There's no way. There's no way. The committee has, and that's where I come to on this too. The committee has clearly valued Oregon more than Alabama, right? They've had them ranked multiple spots ahead of them all year long. Both won losses. They're there. So, yes, Alabama's win over Georgia would be really good because they're number 1. But Oregon's wins over Washington would be really good because they're number 3, right? Like, it's not like Oregon's win in the Pac-12 championship would be over a mediocre Stanford team or something like that, right? So, Oregon wins, they're in. There's no way they can get left out when they've been ranked, 3 spots higher? They're 5th and Alabama's 8th. So, they're 3 spots higher than Alabama. And clearly have been valued that way forever. That's just no way. So no, there is an SEC alliance, but they're not getting left out. End of story. Final story there. Good question though. Minvo, appreciate you. Thank you again. Live on YouTube, he comes through clutch with the big holiday special purchase and has been a loyal subscriber and Expert Picks member for years. And every single bit of it has gone a very, very long way in helping us build something special here. So, man, we do thank you. Thank you for being here. John Paul Bacon. And also, I should say this. The phone lines are still open. I never put it up. It's ticking across the bottom here. We might take a few more calls tonight, of course. We'd be happy to. But, man, John, you're trying to get me on a rant tonight, man, because I've ranted about this for years. And I guess not everybody always wanted to hear it. You're right. The college football playoff system from the beginning has been stupid. It was always destined to fail. Why would you make a 4-team playoff when you have 5 power conferences? Why would you do that? Especially when we have seen the reason the playoff was created. The reason the playoff was created was because of what happened in the BCS era, where Oklahoma State got left out and the national championship ended up being Alabama and LSU. Everybody was up in arms about the national championship being between 2 teams, not just from the same conference, but from the same division who had played each other earlier in the year. So they said, how do we fix this? We don't need this to happen. Oh, I know. Let's create a playoff system because that's what every other sport does, right? The FCS has a great playoff system. The NFL has a playoff system. The NBA does. The MLB does. Everybody's got a playoff system except for the college football. So they do it. But instead of making it normal, in the NFL, they had, until they expanded, the NFL had 6. 6 from each conference. 6 AFC, 6 NFC. Now it's 7. But 6 was a good number. The NBA had 8. 1 versus 8, 2, 7, 3, 6, 4, 5. College basketball had 64. Do we need that in college football? I don't think so. Would it be fun? Yes. Do we need it? No. But they did it. They did so many big, what they did. So then they come in here and they go, let's do 4. Why would we do 4? Why wouldn't we do 6? Because I'm not saying the 6 needs to be where the Power 5 champion has to be in. But like in a year like this, where you've got an SEC champ in Georgia or Alabama, the Big Ten champ in Michigan, the ACC champ probably in Florida State, the Pac-12 champion in Washington, Oregon, and the Big 12 champion in Texas, a year like this, where all 5 Power 5 conference champions are currently possibly residing in your top like 7 or 8, they deserve their shot. But someone's getting left out. And we have seen multiple times where the playoff has had 2 teams from the same conference, which was the exact thing that they wanted to avoid in the first place. We've seen Alabama and Georgia face off. Last year, we saw Michigan, Ohio State both make it out of the Big Ten. So your pitiful, puny, ridiculous 4-team playoff never was going to work. It was never going to prevent what you hated from happening. Now, expanding it to 6, expanding it to 8, expanding it to 12 could still have a, you get multiple teams in from the same conference. Sure, it could happen, but at least then you've got other, I don't know, you got other teams in there. Like I agree. The 4-team playoff was ridiculous. It was idiotic. It just wasn't thought out. As most things have been with the NCAA, they hastily made their decisions. The NCAA, they don't have any brain cells. They genuinely don't. It's a corrupt system. All they can think about is money. They don't take into account the fans. They don't take into account the athletes. They don't take into account the coaches, the guys that make money for the NCAA. They don't take them into account. They have no brain cells. So they did the quickest, most hastily thrown together thing they could think of, which was, let's do a 4-team playoff to satisfy the fans. I mean, it was idiotic. I mean, from the beginning, it should have been at least 6. It should have been at least 6. Adapt the NFL format. I have always been an advocate for 8. I had always been an advocate for 8, and do it just like NBA or anything like that. 1-8, 2-7, 3-6, 4-5. That's your playoff. Boom. No one gets a bye week. Everybody has to play an opening round game. You just do it that way. That's what it should have been. But thankfully, now we're getting the 12-team. And I actually like the 12-team format. I think it's good. I think we're going to have representatives from every Power 5 conference. But in the case of a year like this, where you've got 2 great teams like Washington and Oregon or Alabama and Georgia and teams like that, they would probably in this year both get their shot. They'd both get a fair crack at a playoff berth. So, and a shot at a national title, as they should. So that's good. I like that. So 12-team playoff next year is going to be great. We just got to wait a whole other year to get there. Pros and cons. Patience is key. And Doggy goes, hey, look, I like Premier League soccer, all right? I like Premier League soccer. They've got a good system, right? They play a crap ton of games. They've got a great scoring system, 3 points for a win, 1 point for a tie, in the relegation zone, man, that's your playoff alone. Finish in the top 17, there's no punishment, right? Like in football, there's no punishment. If we reward failure in American sports when you think about it. Like, hey, if you are the worst team in the NFL, the worst team in the NBA, the worst team in the MLB, we're going to give you the number 1 pick. And I get that because that gives you an opportunity to get the next best player to try to build your team up and get better and not be the worst team in the league. But the Premier League has relegation, so there's an incentive. And then obviously if you win in the Premier League, you go to the Champions League, you finish the top 4, you finish 5th, you go to Europa. It's a great system. That's your playoff. That's your incentives there. And then you got a whole bunch of other tournaments within European football, like the Carabao Cup, with all the European football teams, like 90 teams in there, and it starts whittling themselves down. So it's a good system. I didn't mean to say that you've got something against them. That wasn't me saying that you were against the Premier League, but I think they've got a great system. They don't have a playoff system, but I think they've got a great system on how they do things. Justin, thank you, my guy. Thank you very much for that super chat. That again goes a long way. I cannot stress that enough. So, Nin has been huge. My man Justin coming through clutch. We had our man Johnny signing up for those expert picks earlier today. And then Justin, Blue Devil, and Ty coming through with the super chat. So thank you all so much for all of that. Doesn't matter how big, doesn't matter how small. Every single bit goes back into the channel and helps us significantly. So, and Justin, we thank you very much for being here. Really do. Y'all got me on that rant with the playoff format. John Paul, yes, the Pac-12 champion's a lock. How can it not be? Washington wins. They're in. They're obviously number 3 right now. So if they finish undefeated, they're staying. If Oregon wins, I think they just kind of swap plays with. I don't know what the committee is going to do with it, but I really could see Washington if they beat or Oregon if they beat Washington. Oregon jumps to 3 and Florida State stays at 4. I think you could make the argument that Oregon should be above Florida State. I could see that happening despite them being 1 loss and Florida State being undefeated. That's a very strong possibility. But yes, the Pac-12 champion to me is a lock. I don't see any way how you can leave that champion out. Both teams are so good. They're giving them so much credit. The committee obviously thinks very highly of Oregon. They're playing some of the best football in the country. So regardless of who wins, they're in. They're in, no doubt. Robert, 2, buddy. We just need 2. Just need 2. 2 more for that. We're getting close. So hopefully we'll get there, my guy. Hopefully we'll get there. Obviously, Min and Johnny coming through clutch today and helping us reach that goal. They really did. They really have. Let's see here. So Ryan says he's going to pitch a final college football rankings that the committee can make. Michigan at 1, Bama 2, Florida State 4. Ryan, I don't see Bama. I see where you're coming from, right? I see what your point you were trying to make. You were saying, hey, like, you think that they might be a little bit more biased towards the SEC, giving Bama a little bit too much credit if they beat Georgia. But I just don't. You just can't. You just can't do that. Like that. My concern. My biggest concern is not even Bama rising up that high, like from 6 spots from 8th to 2nd. My concern is, would the committee really drop Georgia out? That's where I get concerned. Is the committee really going to say, hey, Georgia, you've been the best team in the country for like almost 3 years in a row now. You now suffer your first loss by 1 possession to Alabama in the SEC championship by like 3 points, and we're going to drop you 4 spots. We dropped Tennessee 4 spots when they lost by 29 to Missouri. We dropped Oregon State 4 spots when they lost by 24 to Oregon. You lose by 3 to Alabama, and we drop you 4 spots. That's my concern. Honestly, I look at it more as, if you're Alabama, do you even get in if you beat Georgia? I don't think the Pac-12 champ gets kicked out, but is Bama's win over Georgia enough? Or does Bama maybe get gypped and stuck at number 5, even though they beat the Bulldogs? And that's where corruption comes in too. Are you really going to put Georgia ahead of Alabama? Are you going to keep Georgia in the playoff and not Alabama when Alabama wins the head-to-head? If that's the case, it debunks everything the committee claimed to have built themselves on. Right? We value head-to-head. Well, that's why we have Texas ranked above Alabama right now, because Texas beat them head-to-head. Oh, but when it comes to Georgia and Alabama, that's a bit of a gray area there because Georgia's been so good. Keep in mind, guys, remember this. The committee is not, they do, they'll tell you they don't, but the committee is not supposed to take into account anything that's happened in the past, right? So you could win 100 straight games. That means nothing. The committee is supposed to focus on the here and the now. What happens now? What have you done this year? What have you done for me lately? That's what it comes down to, right? And so that's great. Georgia's won the last 2 natties. It's great they've won 29 straight games. But it's this year only that's supposed to matter. And I don't think that's always the case at the committee, though. I think it is hard. It is hard to not look into the past. It's hard to not be like, but look what they've done the last few years. Yeah, I know. We know. But, like, you just can't focus solely on that. Jerry, I'm getting to your question because I do have some thoughts on that, but I want to give a thought to Neo. Thank you very much, Neo, for that super chat. Again, that goes a long way, my guy. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for that. You guys you're pumping it in today, man. We got Neo, Blue Devil, Ty, Justin, Johnny, Min. You guys have come through clutch and are significantly helping out the channel with every single one of these. What do I think about the Elko hire? I think it was great. I really do. I'm a guy that typically is a pretty big advocate. Not always, but I'm a pretty big advocate for programs going after guys that know the culture, right? Like, and Elko does. Like, you don't always have to bring in a coach that used to play for the school. You don't always have to bring in a coach that used to coach there. But I think that does help. Bringing in a guy that knows the expectations at their program, knowing a guy that's been there before, that's huge. It's not an outsider. Because here's the thing, when it comes to coaching, right, a lot of the misconception to an extent is they're just always trying to get the next best gig. Who's the next best offer? Take me to the next best offer. And who's not, right? You're lying to yourself if any of you right now would not leave your current job or whatever for a new job that pays you better. We all would, right? Why wouldn't you? But bringing in a guy to come work for you that genuinely cares about the program, that knows what it takes, is big. So Elko's done that. He was a defensive coordinator at Texas A&M. He had been down there. He recruited there. He'd had some success there. He took a chance going to Duke. That was his first head coaching gig. Don't blame it all for going to that. So I think this was a very, very good hire for them. I think he's going to recruit extremely well. I think to win big at a place like Duke kind of shows how talented and good of a coach that this guy is. To win 9 games at Duke last year in his first season, that's no small feat. This was a team that we thought was devoid of talent last year, and Elko went in there and found that talent. And honestly, that's something that Jimbo Fisher was unable to do at Texas A&M. He was bringing in 4 stars. He was bringing in 5 stars, and they weren't winning because he couldn't develop it. He couldn't get that talent out there. And I think that is something that Elko did at Duke. And if you can do that with 2-star, 3-star players at Duke, imagine what he can do now with talent at A&M. So it might not have been the flashiest big name hire that the A&M wanted, but it's a good one. It's a good one. And I think it will pan out for them in the end. And God knows they need it, right? I mean, Kevin Sumlin didn't really pan out. Jimbo Fisher didn't pan out. You need Elko to pan out. Although I will say this, my last thing on A&M, all right? And Neil, I appreciate the support as well, not just with the super chat, but your last comment there as well. My last thought on A&M, when did Texas A&M become a elite program, right? Like, when did A&M get this idea that they are supposed to be contending for national championships? I really want to know that. Like, they just came to the SEC and all of a sudden it was like, we should be playing for natties. No, that's not how that works. Like, I know getting a coach like Jimbo led them to believe they might get to that point because he won a national championship at Florida State. He had that winning pedigree, but like, A&M, when have they ever been like that elite of a program? Yeah, they had that one good year with Manziel. They went to the Cotton Bowl, beat Oklahoma. They beat Alabama and Tuscaloosa. They still hang their hat on that from 2012. Like, what are we doing here? So for A&M to come in here and think we should be competing for national championships, I think it's kind of absurd. I know they are a very wealthy school. I know they've got great, recruiting. I know they've got great facilities, but like, let's pump the brakes a little bit. A&M should be thrilled with consistent 9-10 win seasons, and that with the 12-team playoff might be good enough to get them in to the 12-team playoff. But to say that they are consistent like title contenders is kind of ridiculous. So excuse my rant on the act. I got nothing against A&M. I really don't, not at all. But I think a lot of teams sometimes need to temper their expectations. But again, Justin, thank you. Neo, thank you. Jerry, let's get to you, my guy. And then we'll slowly wrap things up tonight. You guys have been phenomenal. We got a few questions left we're going to address. Don't worry. So we're going to finish everything up in the chat tonight, and then we'll make sure to open up the phone lines better next time because we got sidetracked. Y'all sidetracked us. Are good at that. Thoughts on the Syracuse hire today, Jerry? I really, really like it. I really do. I'm pulling more a little bit extra info up on him right now. But I'm calling him Fran the man. I really am. I think that's a really good pickup for the Orange. And you and I, Jerry, talked about this the other day. You and I did. You emailed me and you said, what does Syracuse need to do? Who do they need to get after to fix the program, right? Like, are they eventually going to ever hire that big name to someone that's proven? So I think Jerry, you're in a kind of in the middle ground here because Fran is not a big name hire. Fran Brown is not a big name hire. but he's a guy that I think is what Syracuse needs. He has a great connection to the Northeast area. They consider him to be one of the best recruiters in the country. The biggest thing I'm looking at, Jerry, more than anything, is while Fran, I think, is going to be a heck of a motivator. I think he's going to be a heck of a recruiter. He's got a great opportunity getting his first head coaching gig. And look what he's done with Georgia. Georgia's secondary, the defensive backs, have been phenomenal year in and year out. It's been a strength for them. They've been one of the best defenses in the country for almost every year since Kirby Smart arrived in Athens. Fran playing a major role for a handful of those seasons, no doubt about it. So that's exciting and big for them, right? But then, yeah, you continue to dig a little deeper. Not only has he recruited well to Athens, but he's got ties in the Northeast area, the New York area, the New Jersey area, which is tough to do when you're coaching in the South, when you're coaching down in Athens. So I think that's huge. What I'm more interested to see is what's his staff look like. Who does he go out and hire to complement him? Who's his defensive coordinator? Who's his offensive coordinator? As we've seen for a handful of teams across the country, that can make or break your season. That can make or break your team. You need someone there that's competent in their play calling. He needs someone that he can trust as a defensive coordinator. I wouldn't be surprised if he poaches a handful of position coaches from Georgia to come with them to Syracuse. Would not be surprised in the slightest to see them pick up a few guys from Georgia and bring them up into Syracuse. That would be a great move by him. Bring in guys that have a winning pedigree, knows what it takes to win the SEC. Now here to rebuild a Syracuse team that's going bowling. It's going bowling for back-to-back seasons, but obviously expects to have more. So, Jerry, I think you look at it from a mixture of areas. Is it the big name you wanted? No. Is it a guy that's proven? Not really, but he's a guy with a lot of potential. And that can go one of two ways. That can ultimately fail, or it could really, really pan out. And I think you give him 2 years. Next year might not be great. Depends on who he gets to the transfer portal, who he recruits, who his coordinators are. Play that stuff by year. So next year, if it's great, awesome. If it's mediocre, second year is going to be key. And I think we're seeing a lot of new coaches now getting that short leash. You know, where they used to say, give them 3, 4, 5 years to build their program and get their guys in, this and that. Well, in this day and age with the transfer portal and NIL and things like that, coaches don't get that much time anymore. You're expected to win, and you're expected to win pretty quick. And that's why I'm giving him 2 years. Give him 2 years to see what he can do. But I do think he will succeed. And I wouldn't just say that either. I wouldn't just say that. Getting a guy from Kirby Smart's coaching tree from a program that has won each of the last 2 national championships. It's just like Nick Saban. It's just like Bill Belichick. Programs and franchises went after coaches in those coaching trees, those position coaches, those coordinators, because they learned under some of the best in the business. They won and knew what it took to win at that high of a level. So I like it. I really do, Jerry. I think it's a good hire, man. Really do. Doggy wins the 24-hour live stream. If we can reach our goal, the hope and goal would be to have it this weekend, obviously, would be the plan with conference championships coming on. If we don't reach it then and we reach it the next week or week after that, we would do it probably the first Saturday of bowl season. We would do probably start it late Friday night and carry all the way over into that first Saturday so we can watch bowl games with you guys, utilize our holiday special, and things like that. So that's probably when it would be. But I get what you're saying. Your team's out from the postseason. You got nothing to invest in. I feel that. I'm with you on that. But football's football, man. I don't really care who's on. I just want to see some good games. I just want to see some good games and some good postseason play. And I am very, very interested to see how this playoff race shapes out. How does it all shape out by Selection Sunday? And, of course, we'll have you covered every step of the way to that point. No doubt about it. Let's see. Last few questions here, and then we'll call tonight for everybody here, especially you guys out on the East Coast. I'll tell you as a Noel, Jimbo Fisher is not the coach he was hyped up to be. Before Jameis and after Jameis, we had some loaded rosters that he did little with. Yeah, Louis, that's actually a really good point that I think a lot of people never fully understood. I think Jimbo's a solid coach, right? And I think you've got to temper your expectations. Like, not you specifically, but like who you hire. Jimbo's a guy that can probably come in and consistently deliver you 7 to 9 win seasons. And every now and then he has a great team that maybe he goes and wins 10, 11, 12, contends for his conference title, a national championship, like he did with Florida State. But you're right. If you actually look at the records of Jimbo during his time at Florida State with and without Jameis wasn't all that special. And then at A&M, he never had that type of generational talent, that type of generational quarterback that he had. So it's like one flash in the pan, one big player that helped get him to his success, one good year, and that's about it. I mean, he won the national championship at Florida State, and then he had like a 10-win season. Shortly after that, they went to the Orange Bowl, right? Played Michigan. That was the beginning of the end, right? They won the Orange Bowl over Michigan, like 33-32. It was a wild, wild game. And after that, it all fell apart. And I think that was still kind of dealing with some of the players and the guys that he had from that era of Jameis, the players they had around there. And then when they all left, it was a downfall. 2017 was a terrible year. Then he jumped ship in 2018 to go to A&M. So you're right. You're exactly right on that. Excellent point. Excellent point. Let's see. Someone said something about TCU. Neo says that TCU never. Two things on that. Let me answer John Paul, and I'm closing on my TCU statement because I'm very proud of this statement. Kalen DeBoer or Lincoln Riley, better second-year choice? Kalen DeBoer. Kalen DeBoer, dude, 100%. Lincoln Riley, I don't think is as nearly as good of a coach as people think he is. I think he, like a couple others, is probably a great offensive coordinator, but as a head coach, no. You think about it. Go back and look at his time at Oklahoma. People go, but he went to the playoff almost every year. So he's a good coach. Really? Is he? Is he that good of a coach? Because the way I see it is he inherited a great Bob Stoops roster. Also never got his team to a national championship. The closest he got was that double overtime, right? Wasn't it double overtime? Rose Bowl loss to Georgia. One of the best college football games of all time, I would say. That was great for Lincoln Riley. A great run for them, right? But after that, they declined. It was lose to Georgia, get blown out by Alabama, even worse blowout to LSU, didn't miss entirely. He never got over the hump. Comes to USC, solid run with Caleb Williams in year one, loses the Pac-12 championship game, then loses to Tulane in absurd fashion in the Cotton Bowl. And then this year, with Caleb Williams and a good amount of the roster back and loaded with players in the transfer portal, go 7-5. That a good coach to you? With a guy that's apparently as generational of a quarterback as Caleb Williams is going to be, the number one draft pick is going to change whoever drafts him, change the franchise forever? Doesn't sound too good to me. So I'm taking Kalen DeBoer all day, every day. This guy has sustained success as an offensive coordinator. Indiana was phenomenal with Michael Penix when he was there, was great as a head coach at Fresno State. Jake Haener did great with them. And then Washington has done great with them. First year, kills it. Second year, kills it. One win away from making the college football playoff. I'm taking Kalen DeBoer all day. All day. All day. No doubt. Let's see. Yeah, Doggy, I agree with Colorado, and I agree with BYU. BYU so close to making a bowl game. An up and down year for BYU, and loses in a crushing defeat in second overtime to Oklahoma State. Same with Colorado. They improved, man. All of the 1-11 teams, I saw a graphic today, all of the teams that went 1-11 in 2022 improved rather significantly in 2023. Colorado quadrupled their win total. USF, the Bulls, are going to a bowl game at 6-6. UMass, I think, went 3-9, which isn't great, but they were more competitive than they've been in recent years under Don Brown. I'm trying to think of someone else I'm missing that was 1-11, had a pretty good turnaround. But yeah, nonetheless, I mean, exciting times for those programs to show some big success. And Colorado was never going to be the team people thought. People that were loading up on national title odds or playoff odds for them are ridiculous. But do give Deion Sanders some credit for quadrupling the win total, making them competitive. And question is now, will he be able to do it again next year? Can he take that next step next year? My gut says probably not. Last thing, I saw this from Neo here. I guess I'll put it there. Y'all were talking about Alabama and TCU from last year, and Neo says that TCU never deserved the playoff berth. Eddie, thank you. Northwestern. Sorry. Yes. Braun, man. Golly, what a role. What a role for Braun. 1-11 Northwestern, wasn't doing anything, was left for dead. David Braun comes in. It's like, look, you're just our placeholder. Just Get us through this year the best you can. He goes 7-5 and gets the permanent coaching gig. That is phenomenal. I mean, what a job well done by him. Yeah, so thank you guys all for that. So, I mean, Northwestern, man, that he deserves to be I think he won Big Ten Coach of the Year. I'm pretty sure he won Big Ten Coach of the Year. He should be a candidate for National Coach of the Year, genuinely. I mean, to take a program over with the drama that program was hit with, to get rid of your golden boy and Pat Fitzgerald right before the season starts, all this drama circulating your football program like 2 weeks before the season starts. And it's like, hey, Braun, you're coming in, dude. You've never been a head coach before. Just do your best. And he's like, hold my beer. I'm going to get us to a bowl game and actually be like super competitive. That counts for something. So yeah, thank you for reminding me of that. Graham Brooks, good to see you, doggy. Don't tap out for the year, my guy. Definitely check in periodically, but if you do, we'll expect to see you back here next season when you do come back and you have a reason to be invested in your team and football again. But we appreciate you and all the support as always. My last point here was you guys talking about Alabama and TCU from 2022. Did TCU deserve that playoff spot? Things like that. They did. They did. You can't say TCU didn't deserve to go. 12-1, lost in overtime in the conference championship. Alabama didn't even play for their conference championship. Would Alabama have put up a significantly better fight than TCU in the national championship? 100% they would have. I think we all knew TCU was fraudulent as the year went on, but they just never lost. And so you can't say, hey, we don't think you're as good as you say you are, because we won though. We were winning these games. We beat Oklahoma State. We beat Oklahoma. We beat Texas. We beat Kansas State the first time. You can't just base it solely off the eye test. The results on the field matter. But 5 of the 12 regular season wins for TCU were decided by one possession. I mean, in a handful of those games, even ones they won by 10 points or something, they got past barely. They beat West Virginia by 10. They beat Texas Tech by 10 or something, with those wins coming in the final, that extra touchdown coming in the final seconds. I remember one of our spread picks last year covering because TCU decided to go deep on 4th and 1 with 30 seconds left. And they covered for us, thank God. So it's just funny how that works, right? My comparison to this, to an extent, is Washington. Okay? Bear with me. Washington is a good team. They are a fun team. They are a talented team. And they have taken care of their business when they've had to. They got the win over Oregon. They got the road win at USC, back before USC and the wheels completely fell off, right? They went on the road and beat Oregon State in the pouring rain by 2, right? They got the job done, and they deserve credit for that. No doubt about it. But they have won 6 of their 12 games by 1 possession. That is very fortunate. Extremely fortunate. Barely beat Arizona. Barely beat Oregon. Barely beat Oregon State. And they needed help in that Oregon game. You should remember. Questionable coaching calls by Dan Lanning. A missed field goal as time expired. If they make that field goal, I think Oregon wins in overtime. I really do. So, again, is Washington good? No doubt about it. Do they deserve to be ranked 3rd? No doubt about it. Absolutely they do. But that's why they're a 9.5-point underdog this Saturday, right? A lot of you guys had questions about that. You're like, why is Oregon so low, so high? Why? It's because Washington's been barely getting by. They've been barely scraping by. And they believe Oregon, who has looked like a completely different team since losing to Washington, they believe that Oregon's going to take out their anger on them and beat the brakes off of them. And ironically, the last few years, if you go think about it, these Pac-12 championships that have been so good, Oregon and Utah a few times, even last year, Utah and USC, those really high-octane offenses, those really highly ranked teams going at it, have been blowouts. And the team that was in playoff contention, a couple of years ago it was Oregon, a couple of years ago it was Utah, they get blown out. So USC got blown out last year. So, again, I'm not saying Washington's a bad team. I'm not saying that they don't deserve to be where they are. I'm also not saying they're losing to Oregon. That prediction comes out tomorrow, by the way, 6:00 p.m. Central Time. Don't miss out. But what I am saying is that they've been a very fortunate team. And eventually your luck runs out. Eventually you hit a wall. Eventually you hit a team that's going to beat them. Eventually you beat a team that can withstand the luck, or a team that you won't get lucky against. Maybe that's Oregon. Maybe that's a team they play in the playoff. Who knows? But Washington's great, but they're this year's TCU. The stats back it up. So there you go. Where's my Oregon helmet? All trust. I got to get sent one, my guy. We got our mailing address down in the description. All these helmets back here, all these pennants back here have been sent in by you guys out of the GE Nation, man. We've got, our man Comic Dude sent us the Rutgers helmet. We've got the Arkansas helmet down there. We've got our man Bill sent us Georgia Tech. Ryan sent us USC. Charles sent us Tulane. Jerry sent us Syracuse. Charles actually sent us Tulane pennant as well, and Louisiana Tech pennant. Y'all hooked us up, man. So where's the Oregon helmet? Send us one, my guy. Send us one. If you send it in now and they beat Washington, it'll be here in time for the playoff or the bowl game. Either way, we'll have it on display for the bowl game when we predict them. So just saying. You guys have come through clutch and help him with his background, and we're always open for more stuff. We actually have a handful of new pennants that got delivered today, but we were told not to put them up quite yet. So we will be putting those up soon, and we'll give credit to that person and everything when the time comes. So we're looking forward to that. Hopefully next week. But with that, guys, we'll call it a night here. Nearly 2 hours here on our College Football Playoff Live. This has been phenomenal. Y'all have been great in the chat. We appreciate the guys that have called in. That has been a whole lot of fun. Great takes, great debate, great discussion and debates and questions in the chat. We started the stream by saying this. We'll close by saying this as well. This is what a time to be alive, right? Seriously, this is one of the best years of college football I've seen in a long time, especially from the parity and competition standpoint, but also from the standpoint of this time of year, right? Like, it's sad that college football is slowly coming to an end, but it's an exciting time. Conference championships are awesome, and we got some great games on deck starting on Friday. Then we go into the bowl season. It's going to be awesome there. We've got NFL playoffs coming your way as well. This is one of the best times of the college football season, even though it's happening at the end of the season. So like we always say, we're going to be here with you every step of the way. We're going to be covering you every step of the way with predictions for the conference championships starting tomorrow, predictions for every single bowl game, our spread picks through our holiday special, through our expert picks that you guys have so graciously contributed to. And thank you again to Min and Johnny for purchasing those today and becoming a member of that GE Nation. But the bottom line is you guys are all that, right? You're all part of our GE Nation. We greatly, greatly appreciate every single one of you. So from my man Doggy, hope you stick around, my guy. We appreciate you and your support, my man Jerry, Roman Rojas, Professor Fish, All Trust, John Paul Bacon, Graham Brooks, Ryan Dobis, my man Justin, Blue Devil Jaguar, Ty Halpern, Neo, all of you guys that contributed to our super chats tonight. Y'all come a very long way with all of that. My man Eddie Rose, my man DM, Myra, Neo again, Devin Washington, Sir Dobby, Scotty B, the Baylor King, Robert Flobe, and everybody else that I may have missed tonight. We had so many people in the chat, I may have missed your name, but we appreciate Brady Glassman, of course. How could I forget? Brady, my guy. We appreciate every single one of you. You guys have a great rest of your night. Predictions, again, starting tomorrow. Our schedule is up on YouTube. If you haven't seen it, go check it out. You see exactly which days we're posting, what times we're posting. Get ready for another massive college football weekend. Of course, we'll be back here with you guys very, very soon to break down everything that happened and get ready for Selection Sunday. Best time of the year, but it's only about to get more chaotic. So thank you all again. Have a great rest of your night. We'll see you tomorrow right here on the Gridiron Expert.